as well as other guests who have joined us tonight. Um, as I said at our last offline meeting, it could be a last offline meeting for some time. And they were probably prophetic words, but not because I made a prophecy, but because it was looking that way and it was easy to do so. Given the situation now, we live in a very imperfect world, and yet we embrace it through so many other methods like the online uh, Zoom meetings that we have, which are itself imperfect, and we embrace those imperfections too. It is always man that finds imperfections in everything that it sees. That's because he's intelligent. And when he finds imperfections, he tries to criticize them in others, but embrace them in himself. And very good example is, although I should not touch upon it, being a little religious in a nature, but if you look at the life of Jesus from the biblical, from the Bible, he was a divine being according to the Bible, but man found imperfections in him and put him to death. Now, that's the contradiction or the paradox of our world. We find imperfections in others, and if we find them in ourselves, when we look in the mirror, we try to embrace them. And that, I think, is the theme of today's meeting, but let me not dwell upon it because the host of the meeting, Geeta Pereira, will dwell upon it. Now, as it is a Zoom meeting, all of you know the ground rules. The ground rules is keep your mics off, keep your videos on, participate in the meeting as much as possible with your eyes and your expression rather than with your mouth. With your mouth, whenever you are called upon to do so, please do so and do it with zest and enthusiasm as I will do when I'm called upon to do so as a grammarian. Until then, let me hand over to Leera Pinto, the president of the meeting and the president of PTAT.
Thank you, Brian. We are all eyes and ears open. That for those of you who do not know the Sagittarius term, that is DTM Brian Fernandez, the CEO of News Karnataka and the grammarian for the day. Today, he has broken the monotony of being the grammarian by giving us a word of the day 8 hours prior, which is never a practice in Port Town. Thank you, Brian. And let's see what we have more in store from him later as a grammarian, as he dons the role of a grammarian in a while. So welcome, good evening and welcome to 111 Port Town Advanced Toastmasters meeting. Today we have our esteemed guests with us, as our Active Sisters Club members. We have Jane Jose, the DTM Jane Jose, the president of Advanced Toastmasters Kerala, and Toastmaster Lavanya, the associate VP of Bangalore Storytellers. We have Arjun Sundaraj with us, and I'm not sure what other guests. So a warm welcome to all our guests who are here in this meeting. So friends, could we have a round of applause for our guests by applauding them? Yes. Thank you. Keeping in mind the present situation, we know how difficult it is for us to go offline, even though we went offline from December to April. But they say the fear element is the one which kills us and is the deadliest virus. So let's not fear. Let us take the fear out of ourselves. Keep mentally prepared and pray that all goes well. Our family stays safe. We take the right precaution. And let's pray for the people who are victims of this virus and who have families who are lost and near and dear ones due to this virus, and all those who are ailing from different ailments. I now call upon our Toastmaster, Sharbila Sagar, to lead us in prayer. Over to you, Sharbila Sagar, to lead us in prayer.
Good evening. Thank you, Supreme Power in heaven or Utopia, for creating us beautifully imperfect. Embrace us with your tranquility and love. Help us accept that being imperfect is okay. Guide us to love ourselves before we love others. Trees can be contorted, bent in weird ways, and they are still beautiful. Guide us to see beauty in every bend and love the imperfection in others. Be with us in times of fatigue and lift us with strength to carry out your compassionate love to all those whom we meet. Thank you for giving us a much larger moment and reaching out and connecting with fellow Toastmasters from various clubs for an endless learning and fellowship that boosts our morale. You created us to be real, not to be perfect. Help us also not live someone else's life. Amen.
Yeah, thank you, Toastmaster
Over to you,
Sharmila.
Leela.
Yes, yes. Thank you for that serene prayer. Now I would say knock, knock. It's time for our members to share their achievements. Over to our members.
Okay, I'm happy to announce that I had President Lyra as my pupil in the grammar enhancement course that I conducted for ISTD. I also had communicative English course that I conducted for B.Ed students of St. Anne's College. And probably I can announce that I have accepted the post of principal at Swastika National School, which astounded quite a few of you. So I thought I would officially announce it this evening.
Yeah, congratulations, Malini. I was proud to be a student. Even though we were classmates, I once happened to be a student. Yeah, congratulations, a round of applause for DTM Malini Hebbar on her achievements. So members, what about the rest of you? Anybody?
Yes, I'm
Bharti,
repeating myself.
Veera, yes, Veera.
I'm repeating myself what I said in the winners, but then there are lots of members
That was
who are
winners.
not winners. Yes, I conducted a training program on how to add humor to your speeches at IIMB Orators Club. And at Wipro Beats, I won the first place in the stand-up.
Congratulations.
I think it's beaten to death, but yeah, I had to announce it in the next meeting.
Proud of you. Yeah. Anybody?
Thank you, Leela. Nothing specific except to say that I've started learning Excel and I'm finding it difficult.
Oh, come on, Bharti. If you say difficult, what about me? We are proud of you, as we always do. So members, anybody else? If nobody else has to say anything, I will say something. First of all, I would like to congratulate our ATK Sisters Club along with our club that we won that award, Spirit of 121. Congratulations, Jane Jose, to you and your club. And Toastmasters and friends, I went on the Hall of Fame tracker, and I would say that our club, even though it's not official, we have touched gold. So it is after it will be reflecting, more points will be reflected on May 5th. So congratulations to all my club members who are so supportive, and to my ex-com who are contributing in their own ways, and to my VPI, and of course, Secretary Radhika Adappa, whom I disturbed even in the middle of the night around 12 o'clock to keep a track and see which areas we haven't worked on and where we are supposed to get those points. So thank you, Radhika, and thanks to everybody, to all my club members. Now, before I go any further, I would say that our Toastmaster today, Geeta Pereira, who is a coffee planter, a baker, and who is also a writer, has a beautiful theme for us. Embrace your imperfections. Yes, Geeta, I don't know much. I don't want to say anything more. The stage is yours. Over to you, the Toastmaster of the day, Toastmaster Geeta Pereira.
Thank you, President Lyra, for that introduction. Good evening, everyone. Today, we are all in a philosophical state. At least I am in a philosophical mood. The theme itself, the embracing imperfection, it is easier said than done. And sometimes I think it is an utopian concept because it's very difficult to practice and it doesn't come naturally. We need to cultivate that trait in us. At a personal level, we have to learn to accept our own imperfections, maybe physical or emotional. Our genetic makeup, which is contributed by both our parents, our dad and mom, when we get the genes, 23 chromosomes from each one of them, but when you see our siblings, definitely there are lot of changes, lot of differences, lot of imperfections. I feel perfection is overrated and we need to accept and embrace our imperfections. Now think of a situation when a couple, when they marry, once all the initial romance dies down, and if one is not prepared to embrace the imperfections of a spouse, life will become miserable. And you may end up like Elizabeth Taylor marrying 8 times. I was just going online, I checked, I came across a nice song sung by John Legend. The title is All of You. And the part of the lyrics goes like this: all of me loves all of you. Love your curves and your edges, all your perfect imperfections. So this song is definitely meant for all those who are married, who are in love, and who want to accept and embrace imperfections in one another. Before I continue my philosophical talk, I think I'm going to introduce the tag team for today. We have Toastmaster Hilda as our timer. We have DTM Sham as our counter. We have Wayne as our Zoom master. And we have DTM Brian as our grammarian. I request the grammarian to give the word of the day.
Yeah, good evening, friends. Let me just share my screen once. It's yeah. Can you see that on the screen?
No.
They can't see it.
Yes, we
yes.
can see.
Yes.
Is it visible now?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So the word of the day is utopian, and it's actually pronounced, as far as I know, the English teachers and professors can correct me, but as far as I know, it is utopian. It's pronounced utopian. Correct me if I'm wrong. The adjective means modeled on or aiming for a state in which everything is perfect and idealistic. For instance, a utopian ideology. That is something that we all strive for, but we'll never find. And the noun form is an idealistic reformer. He described himself as an educational utopian. Now, there is just one other thing is that I just wanted to share with you. That is, it's an imaginary place. Why is it an imaginary place? Because perfection is only in heaven, and none of us have seen heaven. What we have seen is on earth, and earth is full of imperfections. That means if you have, let's say you have an obsessive compulsive disorder, and you want everything in its place, you want it to be perfect. When you write a speech, you want every word to be absolutely perfect. When you deliver a speech, you want to have no R's, no pauses, nothing of the sort. One smooth flow of words. That's utopia. It's not going to happen. And in fact, the imperfections that you deliver when you deliver a speech are something that make it interesting, make it different from everybody else. If you all speak in the same voice, if you all speak in the same tone, then there's no Toastmasters meeting. So an imperfect Toastmaster is what we should be, is my view, because imperfections are something that make life interesting. With those words, I would request you to use the word, but I will also be trying to concentrate. I'm not sure I can 100%, and I cannot be perfect on your good usage of language. The problem is I also have to manage the voting ballots and other things. So I have my own issues. I will not be a perfect grammarian, as I said in the morning, but I'll try to embrace that imperfection and try to be as perfect as I can. Thank you.
Thank you, DT and Brian, for that explaining your word of the day. Now let us start the first segment of today's session, the prepared speech segment. I call upon the first speaker for today, Toastmaster Claudette Noronha. When I asked her about embracing imperfection, she said she believes in embracing imperfections and not to be judgmental about others. Her evaluator for today is Bo Conroy Paul. Bo, could you please read the objectives?
Yes. Good evening, everyone, and a special good evening to Toastmaster Claudette Noronha, our first speaker here today. Toastmaster Claudette Noronha is on her persuasive influence pathway, level 1, which is the icebreaker speech. The purpose of the speech is to introduce yourself to the club and learn the basic structure of public speaking. The title of Claudette Noronha's speech is My Please, Pleases, and Pestering. The time for the speech is 4 to 6 minutes. With that, all the best, Toastmaster Claudette Noronha.
Claudette, you're good to go. Good luck.
Hilda, may I have a look at the cards before we get started? Can you hear me? Am I audible, visible?
Yes, yeah, you are audible and visible. Yes.
Time is given.
This is great.
Okay, fine. Okay, that's fine. Okay, Hilda. Yeah. I have you. Yeah. May I get started?
Yes.
May I get started?
Yes, yes, Lolly.
I know it's a utopian dream to think you can always get your way. Over the years, I have tried to be as persuasive as I could, but not always with success. Perhaps that is why I chose persuasive influence as the path to embark on. Good evening, Port Towners and guests. As an army officer, my dad was sometimes posted to a field station, and then the responsibility of raising her brood of 4 children fell entirely on my mother's shoulders. I was the third arrival of the 4, and as a middle child, though I did feel included, I definitely did not feel special. And so I had to use every persuasive bone in my body to get my way. A utopian dream, I know. When I was about 8 years old, I yearned to have a pet dog. So I went to my mother. Mama, please, 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 can you get us a pet doggy? I promise you, I'll look after it. I'll do everything. It won't be a bother for you at all. My mother knew exactly what an 8-year-old's promises meant. But contrary to her convictions, she eventually relented and got us a cute little pup. Around that same time, I also desperately wanted to grow my hair long. So I went to my mother. Ma, only I have this horrible short hair. All my friends have such beautiful long hair. And if their mamas can let them, why can't you? Wrong strategy. My mother flatly refused. And she said, Lolly, when you can look after that short hair and keep it neat, you can grow it. Kind of demanding from a 9-year-old at that point, I'm sure. But what happened to me was that the army barber, till I was almost a teenager, gave me a hairstyle similar to the crew cut that the Jawans sport. Neither my pleases, nor my pestering had worked. With time, I think my tactics got better. Several years later, my mother decided it was time for me to settle down. In local parlance, get hitched for the rest of my life. She made a 4-hour trip from Nasik to Bombay to come and take me back with her to meet a good boy who happened to be visiting. At that point in time, I was working in Bombay and had a wonderfully footloose and fancy-free life. Her pressurizing was not half as effective as my persuasive tears and my pleases and my pleas and my promises to find my own good man eventually. 2 days later, she boarded the train alone to Nasik. My persuasive tears and my promises had worked. When I did get married, it was an entirely different story. Halfway through my extremely skillful persuasion, my husband turned a deaf ear and then did exactly what he wanted to do. These days, our drives on unfamiliar roads are so much more peaceful, thanks to GPS. I no longer have to ask him repeatedly and pester him to stop and ask for directions, something he hates to do. Soon enough, the children came along, and I found that history repeated itself. My son sometimes wielded pester power like a maestro, and I have to admit my children's pleases and pestering got the upper hand. I have come to the conclusion, like the legendary philosopher, visionary Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones, who said, "You can't always get what you want. No, you can't always get what you want. But if you try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need." What I need right now is to be more effectively self-persuasive, to be more efficient in my time management and less impulsive, to be more productive and less focused on trying to do things perfectly, to try and make at least 2 or 3 people I meet every day cheerful, and mainly to know the difference between what I want now and what I want the most. So till then, my dear Port Towners, I'm going to make my pleases and my persuasion more directed at me. And since you are my Port Towners, while I'm on this path, I am going to focus on making my pleases, and my persuasion directed at you too, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Claudette Norona, for that wonderful speech about persuasive influence. You did a great job.
I have to admit, one sec, Geeta, I cannot see the timer. I could not see the timer right through. I have no idea why.
You are in. You are in.
I'm in. Okay, fine. Okay, go ahead, Geeta. Sorry.
Yes, yeah, we have the next speaker for today. It is Toastmaster Shweta Kamath. She says she accepts imperfections with grace. She is going to give her icebreaker speech, and she's a debutant speaker. Let us give her a big round of applause and greet her into our Zoom meeting. Her evaluator is Toastmaster Lavanya Manjunath. Lavanya, could you please read the objectives?
Yes, sure. Thank you. Good evening, Toastmasters. Today, the speaker is attempting her first speech, and the purpose of the speech is to introduce himself or herself to the club and learn the basic structure of public speaking. Timer, please note the time is 4 to 6 minutes for the speech. All the best to the speaker, and over to you, TMOD.
Toastmaster Shweta Kamath, New Beginnings. New Beginnings, Toastmaster Shweta Kamath. Over to you, Shweta.
Shweta has to unmute.
Okay. Can I start again, ma'am?
Yes.
Should I start again, ma'am?
Yeah, you can start now. Yes.
Good evening, Toastmasters of the day, fellow Toastmasters, and it's never too late to learn, never too late for new beginnings. I, Shweta Kamath, honored to become a member of your esteemed club. Thank you all for welcoming me with warm smiles and open arms. Just 45 years young, happily married to Sandeep Kamath, who is an architect by profession. I'm a mother to Satvik, who's pursuing his engineering in MIT. Yours truly is a civil engineer by academic qualification and homemaker. My priorities in life are my home, my family, and having a good disciplined lifestyle. This includes consuming a healthy diet along with a good fitness regime, which includes walking, swimming, yoga, and gym. As a young girl, I was a voracious reader. Unfortunately, I do read not as much as I would love to. I love to travel, and the avid traveler that I'm noted, I like to explore new places. I plan my own trips and so that I get to see a little more than other tour operator trips. I have visited several countries, and if not for COVID, I would have traveled last year. Though born and brought up in Mumbai, my father's profession took me to several metros during my formative years. I also had the opportunity to study in a boarding school in Panchgani, which I consider as a very important phase in my life, as it taught me self-reliance. My childhood memories are something which I always cherish. My younger brother, who is now a very successful orthopedic surgeon in Abu Dhabi, and me had a cat and dog, though this bond has only strengthened. I completed my engineering from Manipal, and I'm a gold medalist from TAP. Though the gold rush did not stop with just a medal. I met my solitaire, my best friend, my husband, my soulmate in Manipal. So I have only fond memories of Manipal. Worked in Qatar as a junior civil engineer for a few years, and at the age of 25, I got married to Sandeep and shifted to Puttur. My first few years of married life were in Puttur, a small rural town in Dakshina Kannada. This sudden shift from metros to a rural setting for me was a little difficult, and if not for the support of my in-laws and my husband, would have been impossible. Life in Puttur was actually quite interesting. In fact, I was amongst the very few women who used to ride a two-wheeler with shade, and people used to actually talk about it, though it's a very common sight nowadays. After living in Puttur for 14 years, we shifted to Mangalore for 7 years back. Being here has helped me develop as a person and made me new friends, for which I'm very thankful for. Recently, I lost both my in-laws in a very short time. And this has definitely left a void in my life, though I do know that the good wishes and blessings will always be with me. The idea of Toastmasters was introduced to me by a very good friend, my soul sister, Anu Sharma, who is also a fitness enthusiast like me. Now that I have a little bit of me time, I want to do something constructive and develop myself. Public speaking for me has always sent jitters and shivers down my spine, and it continues to do so. I, Shweta Kamath, am here to conquer this fear. This is an adventure I'm looking forward to. Self-development at any age is a sign of growth. With your guidance, dear Port Towners, I wish to attain many more milestones. In the so-called utopian world, I would have probably given my speech offline. Nevertheless, embracing the imperfections of these present times, I'm glad I could finally present my speech to you. New beginnings, always exciting, and making new friends even more so. So thank you for having me. And here's a toast, all the Toastmasters at the good times, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Toastmaster Shweta Kamath, for that wonderful speech. Let us give her a virtual applause for her first speech here at Port Town.
Thank you.
Now we have the third speaker, DTM Vidya Shenoy, who says, embracing imperfection is inviting the goodness of life. Her evaluator is DTM Jane Jose. Jane, could you please read the objectives?
Thank you so much to Toastmaster of the Day, my fellow Toastmasters, and the speaker in particular, Toastmaster Vidya Shanoy. She is doing the path, engaging humor, and she is presenting the first speech from level 1. And the purpose statement of her speech is to present a well-organized speech, receive a feedback, and apply it to the second speech. The speech may be humorous, informational, or any style the member chooses. We all know that the speaker is very good in language and she's already a distinguished Toastmaster, but we are all waiting to hear something special from her. All the best to the speaker. Thank you so much, Toastmaster of the Day.
DTM Vidya Shanoy, of pickles and such. Of pickles and such, DTM Vidya Shanoy. Over to you, Vidya.
Last week, as I was browsing through the Deccan Herald, I chanced upon an article on Apimidi. For the uninitiated, Apimidi is a variety of mango which is used exclusively for making pickle. It is a tiny, oblong-shaped fruit, deliciously tangy, which when mixed with a fire of red chili paste becomes an absolutely irresistible accompaniment, lunch or dinner time. One bite and you're literally in pickle utopia. Toastmaster of the Day, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Let me take you to a small town called Hubli.
If you don't mind my interruption, only now you have come on camera. Otherwise, we had a blank screen. So with the permission of the evaluator and the TMOD, shall we start with their speech again?
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Vidya, could you start your speech again? You were not on camera all this while. And I wanted to check it out before interrupting because I didn't know whether it was my internet problem. So only after checking it out with others and after confirming that it was a problem with all, I interrupted you. Could you start again? Only now you are on camera.
Okay, ma'am. All right. Shall I begin now?
Yes.
Please do.
Last week, when I was browsing the Deccan Herald, I chanced upon an article on Apimidi. For the uninitiated, the Apimidi is a mango which is used exclusively for making pickles. It is oblong-shaped, deliciously tangy, and when mixed with a fire of red chili paste, becomes an incredible accompaniment, lunch or dinner time. One bite and you're literally in pickle utopia. Toastmaster of the Day, fellow Port Towners, guests, and more Toastmasters. Come with me as I take you to a small town called Hubli, which is in Karnataka. Walk along with me to Deshpande Nagar and get into an imposing mansion called Pandurang Sadan. Chances are the door is already open. As you wander into the house, you will come upon a room which is dark and slightly cold. Perched there in the midst of multitude of jars and jars, you will find a rotund woman exclusively looking exquisite in a 9 yards sari. This is my mama, my grandmother, my maternal grandmother. And that room is her domain. And the jars are filled with handmade Apimidi pickle, her most prized accomplishment. This room is Mamama's utopian world. My grandfather, a thin, lanky man, was a typical relic of that era, domineering and forceful, yet on all matters relating to the Apimidi pickle, it was my grandmother's rule. Every year, she would order in 10,000 of the Apimidi pickles, mangoes. Yes, you heard me right, 10,000. For those who have read of Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours to refine a skill, or are used to walking 10,000 steps to stay fit, Mama probably knew the magic of this number 10,000, which guaranteed success. The women who brought in the Apimidi pickles, mangoes, carried it on cane baskets and walked into Pandurang Southern. Single-handedly, my mama would grind the chili paste on a large grinding stone, and she herself made sure that the pickles went into the jar. The Apimidi mango has a shelf life of over 5 years and has an inbuilt preservative, a natural preservative. So my mama could take all her time in the world to distribute the pickles, and distribute it she did to family, friends, acquaintances, neighbors, whoever wanted the pickle from any part of India and also in the US. Not a single jar was sold. The Apimidi pickle was not commerce for her. It was her passion and labor of love. And the Apimidi pickle had to be savored as such. My summers were spent in Hubli, and year after year, I saw my mama do this. When I was growing up, I believed that this was just the thing that my mama did. But today, as I look back, I understand what this annual ritual meant to her. It was not merely the making of the pickle. The process of making the pickle and distributing it, going from Pandurang Southern, was her way of establishing her self-worth. She offered the women who brought the Apimidi her homemade coolants. She gave them her old saris, inquired about their families and their well-being. And year after year, her bond with these women strengthened. She looked forward to this ritual year after year. Old contacts were renewed, and new friends and new relationships were forged. She was the undisputed pickle queen. The multitudes swarmed to Pandurang Southern for their share of largesse. Many people asked her often why she did not sell her pickle in her husband's chain of restaurants. She didn't want it that way. Like I told you, this was her thing, and this was what made her very special. In the 53 years of being married to my grandfather, where he was completely in control, the Apimidi gave my mama a sense of agency, authority, and autonomy. Today, the pickle room in Hubli is no longer dark. My mama left us 16 years ago. That room is sun-dappled and brightly lit. The jars are still there, but merely mute artifacts of an era that has gone by. Her large grinding stone sits in a corner of the perfectly manicured garden and is now a garden artifact. In my heart, I know for sure that the gods are being well fed. And if I really strain my ears, I fancy that I can hear the smacking of celestial lips as my mama's delicious Apimidi is severed in the heavens. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, DTM Vidya. My mouth is watering. And if you have any of those pickles at home, I think you have to distribute to all the port towners. Thank you for that wonderful speech. The last speaker for today is Toastmaster Melora Pies, who says, Love yourself. Remember, you are enough. It's a very powerful statement. Remember, you are enough. And that was the thought she had about embracing imperfections. She'll be evaluated by DTM Urmila Shetty. Urmila ma'am, could you please read the objectives?
Good evening, everyone. Melora is on level 1 of Pathways, Strategic Relationships. She will be doing Project 3, and her title is Forget Me Not. The objective here is to review basic research methods and present a well-organized, well-researched speech on any topic. Not the research itself, but the topic. All the best, Melora. I can't see you, but all the best.
Toastmaster Melora Pies, Forget Me Not. Forget Me Not, Toastmaster Melora Pies. Melora, you're good to go.
Thank you, Toastmaster Geeta and TTM Urmila. Am I visible and audible to all?
Yes, you are.
Okay. A very good evening to you, my dear Toastmasters. I see you all have been an excellent audience, and I hope you all will support me by answering these simple questions that I have for you all. I would actually want you to unmute yourself and answer these. My first question to you is, can you tell me what you had for breakfast this morning?
Cabbage.
Omelette.
Okay. Sale. Who was the first person you spoke to as soon as you woke up this morning?
My husband.
Okay, that was also
my darling mother.
Yes. My third question, who was the last person you messaged last night before you slept, and what was that message? You don't have to answer this. You can keep it to yourself, but try to recollect. Was that easy? Okay, now let's try this. What were you doing at 10:12 a.m. yesterday morning? At 10:12, exactly at 10:12 a.m. yesterday morning.
I was taking a class for my first MA students.
The exact word that you spoke at 10:12 a.m. Okay, that becomes a little difficult. So what I'm trying to say here is, imagine if your life was like this always, that you kind of know the whole picture, but you're not able to pinpoint to something particular. Imagine you look around at your spouse or your children or your family members, and you suddenly feel like you don't remember their names. Or imagine you see these small little Zoom icons on your screen, and you think that you've seen this person somewhere, but you're not able to recollect that they are your Toastmaster family. Now, many of you might want to think that this could happen to anybody else because we are all in our own utopian world, and it could not happen to me. And so did the 4.1 million Indians who are currently battling with dementia as per the World Alzheimer Report of 2015. My first introduction to dementia was way back in 2008 when I watched this movie, You, Me or Hum. It's an Ajay Devgan Kajal startup where the heroine, that's Kajal, is tested with issues of memory loss, which they then diagnose as Alzheimer's, not so much of dementia. But like every other Bollywood movie, they just romanticized this disease and made it look like love can conquer everything. But reality struck really hard when in 2011, as a part of my internship program in Bangalore, I visited the Nightingale's Dementia Care Center. Now, back then, I was still in college. I did not have any clue what exactly the center did, but we were only told not to talk about the elders' past or their history and not to ask too many questions, but to stay in the present. It was only during our orientation that I realized how serious this disease is and how common but not known to many. Currently, with the kind of social media that we are exposed to, I think most of us are familiar with the word dementia or Alzheimer's. But for the benefit of the larger audience, let me just briefly explain what this term means. Now, dementia is a very broad umbrella term for most diseases that are associated with memory and other cognitive abilities or behaviors that interfere significantly with a person's ability to maintain their activities of daily living. And Alzheimer's is just one of the types or forms of dementia. In more simpler words, a rise in your body temperature is given a generic term of fever, but then you have your dengue fever, you have your viral fever and malaria fever. So same way you have dementia as a generic term with all these types, that is vascular dementia, Alzheimer's disease, frontotemporal dementia, and so on. As per the WHO report published in September 2020, around 50 million cases of dementia are reported worldwide, with nearly 10 million new cases every year. And these numbers are expected to reach 82 million in 2030 and 152 million by 2050. Shocking, isn't it? But even with such big numbers, we have very little information of what could be the real causes of dementia. But we do know what are some of the warning signs, which I'd like to share with you. First and foremost, memory loss, which all of us know. The second one, challenges with planning or solving regular, simple day-to-day problems. Completing familiar tasks. It could be your cooking that you do regularly with like literally blindfolded and you can make your dal sar or rice, but you find that difficult. Confusion or disorientation of time or place where you are, what day of the week it is, or which month we are in. Trouble understanding visual images and spatial relationships, how much space, where to walk, which direction within your familiar surroundings. Problems with words, that's my sixth point. Inability to communicate, maybe written or oral. Inability to retrace your steps or to reach back home or again, back to your familiar surroundings. Poor judgment when taking decisions of daily life. Withdrawal from social activities. And lastly, changes in mood and personality. Now you must be thinking that this is for people who are older, which is one of the common myths of dementia. Well, I was shocked when I met a very young 40-year-old woman battling dementia, and I realized that dementia could also have an early onset. So here are the 7 strong pillars that you and I could work on. Firstly, regular exercise. Give about 150 minutes of exercise every week. Social engagement. This I need not talk about much because we all have our Toastmasters community. Healthy diet, cutting down on your sugars and increasing the fruits and vegetables. Mental stimulation, the most important. Please start working on your Sudokus. Quality sleep. Sleep well, rest well. Stress management, breathe deep and making me time your priority. And lastly, vascular health, that is quitting smoking and checking your BP and cholesterol levels. I'd like to end with a small quote from Dr. Nancy Sicot. Reducing your risk requires starting lifestyle changes from the get-go and not waiting until you're 70. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Melora, for enlightening us about dementia and Alzheimer's. You really struck a chord with me today because I have my mother who has Alzheimer's and I'm taking care of her and who is just sleeping next to me here. So that's why I enjoy online meetings because I can take care of her and also engage with my best friends here. Now we have come to the end of the prepared speeches segment, I request Toastmaster Hilda Fernandez, the timer, to give the report and let us know that everybody has qualified.
Hello. Toastmaster Claudette Norona took 5 minutes, 33 seconds. Toastmaster Shweta Kamath, 4 minutes, 32 seconds. DTM Vidya Shenoy, 6 minutes, 49 seconds. And Toastmaster Melora Pius, 7 minutes, 49 seconds.
Yeah, I think since it's an online meet and many of you could not see the timer, I think everybody can qualify. That's what I feel. Does anybody have to say anything?
The voting link.
Only I couldn't see the timer.
But you're in, Lolly.
You're in, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing to worry. Geeta just announced a voting link.
Yeah, voting link has been posted in the chat box. Please vote for the best speaker.
We are about 28 logged in. Can we have the group picture? TMOD Geeta will be helping us with that.
At 31, I think they logged out. Yeah. Okay.
Please put on your cameras.
The timer was always highlighted or spotlighted. Sorry. Even in the first speech, timer was spotlighted. Just saying.
No, Bharati. First 2 speeches, she was not highlighted, and then she was.
Mine came as spotlighted on my system. I'm just saying.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
I know,
I could also
only
see.
from the third.
Yes. It was, she was spotlighted. It's okay. It's okay. Let us.
This is possible is what I'm saying. It's possible that it doesn't show in some systems. In this system, it shows.
Kindly turn on your cameras for the picture. We have to go into the next segment. Yeah, thank you, Bharti.
Shweta is not, yeah.
All in smiles, please.
PTM Arjun.
Come this side. Arjun, turn on your camera. Arjun. Most needed.
Yeah, done. Yeah.
Thank
with
you.
The photos. Yeah.
Your head and above will be.
Please vote for the best speaker. So as I continue with the philosophy of embracing imperfections, actually it goes back to Japan 400 years ago. There was a philosophy called as kintsugi. The philosophy started like this. When someone broke a vase or a ceramic pot, they put all the pieces back together with lacquer, gum, and instead of making the cracks invisible, they made them look beautiful by putting gold, silver, or platinum powder. The cracks were highlighted and not hidden. So kintsugi embraces imperfections and creates a stronger piece of art. So in life, kintsugi is a metaphor for the human journey. Today, when I stand here, I have experienced pain. I have my biggest fears. I have my struggles. But I want to accept my imperfections and get along with life. So it's a very strong and very powerful philosophy, and which makes us happy and go forward in life. Now, the next segment is the innovative spot, which is going to be conducted by Toastmaster Frana Pinto. Toastmaster Frana, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. In keeping with the theme of today, our impromptu speeches of 1 to 2 minutes will be Know Your Imperfectly Perfect India. To have a utopian India with its many imperfections is not a possibility, but nevertheless, we Indians think our homeland utopian And in spite or despite its many imperfections, we rise to make it utopian. Even our little hometown, Mangaluru, which for us is utopia. The speakers will get a glimpse of the state of India, its capital, its language, and a picture of one unusual feature of that state. The speaker will have to read the heading, the caption below, and what is below it, and then his or her time begins. The reading time, timer please note, will also be included, and then 1 to 2 minutes for the topic itself. Do you want me to explain it further? Is it understood, or do you want me to take the first topic? Who will take the first topic?
Rana,
Are
I
there
don't
any
mind.
volunteers? Are there any volunteers?
Yes, Bharati.
Bharati, okay. Which two? The first one. Bharati, you have to read the caption on the top, the below, and below that, and then you have to speak. Can you see?
Okay. Yeah, I've read something. So it's a normal.
Read aloud. Read aloud.
Oh, I have to read it aloud, is it?
Yes, and you have to read fast so that your reading time is also included.
Everybody can see it, so why do I need to read it? I'll read the title only, right? Okay. Is that all right?
Okay,
Yeah.
and you have to speak on the last line.
On the last line that you've given below.
Yes.
All right.
Is it better for me to read it, or it's preferably you'll read yourselves?
I have read it, Prana.
Okay, fine.
So you've given me things about the state and something else and something about its dance. So I have to put all three together and speak. I'm asking because I'm the first one.
Yes.
Okay. I start now. Yes. So Toastmaster, Table Topic Master Prana and dear friends of Port Town and our sister clubs. Before me is a beautiful picture of a more beautiful state, which I dearly wish I could visit. I've heard that its charms are incomparable to any other state in India. I had the good fortune of knowing people from Mizoram because I was a member of the Department of English of Aloysius, which has students from the Northeast. And I noticed that their English is actually much better than that of the locals from Dakshina Kannada or from Mangalore. And they had a cultured, polished way of speaking. They were very courteous, very polite. Now, coming to the state, my regret is that as Indians, we don't really think about Mizoram as a part of our country. We are very imperfect, far from perfect, but very imperfect in the inclusiveness that we have regarding our own country. We think that because they have certain Oriental features, many of us consider that they're not part of us. And the governments that have come so far successively have not made it a point to tell us that this is India, there are these people and there are people in the north. As much as Kashmir has been highlighted, for example, the Northeast has not been highlighted. And that is why the regret is that at least in future, with the enlightened table topic masters like you, and people will consider that those from the Northeast are also Indians and that we are from one culture. We may be different, but we are from the same nation. So I hope one day I will be able to visit Mizoram and enjoy the beauty there and tick another box in my bucket list. Over to you, Table Topic Master.
Thank you, Bharati. Did I get another take off of the table topic?
Prana, we have two guests with us, Arjun Sundaraj and Neeta Bhatt. Neeta is the president of our...
Okay, shall I request Arjun Sundaraj to take the next topic?
Sure, ma'am. Okay, what is right on the screen is Manipur, Imphal, and Manipuri.
You can read aloud if you like.
No problem. All right. All right. Thank you. Madam Topics Master, ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that comes to my mind when I read the first word on the page, that is Manipur, was a friend of mine that I met during this wonderful train journey called as Jagrati Yatra. It is a 15-day train journey where you travel across the country, covering major places, about 15 places, meeting a huge number of role models and understanding business and a lot of people who have impacted thousands of lives. There was one traveler with me called as a Yatri or a co-Yatri, I would say. He was from Manipur. He was talking about a specific incident that happened in his life, in his childhood. That is pretty much what exactly is said in the second point over here about women allowed to trade and run stalls. Now, there were a lot of opportunities that women were actually denied in the past, it seems. And over a period of time, what happened was there was a specific manufacturer that came into that particular city, or rather a town that they were living in, and they allowed them to manufacture certain things and sell wherever they could, in whatever the prices that they could. And over a period of time, the infrastructure started to develop. The way the people started to welcome this kind of a change made a huge difference within the families and within the communities wherever this particular industrialist had made a mark. So what had happened over there? It's about, number one, that's a change that was very well welcomed. And number two, enabling or empowering women to do something on their own. Now that really made a significant difference. Now that is something that I was very impressed with in terms of empowering people who were really capable of doing certain things, but not necessarily given the opportunity to. Now that particular experience, when you take a parallel, it's something what happens in Toastmasters as well, right? Over a period of time, we start to interact with people, excellent. And then we start to enable people and we empower them with opportunities like what happened over here with so many speakers coming and delivering icebreakers. And that is exactly what a positive change can be brought about in the community. Back to your Topics Master.
Thank you, Mr. Sundarlal. Did I get your name right? Sundarraj. Thank you very much for that enlightenment. Our next table topic speaker will be Geeta, since I have you as the guest. Sure, baby. That's your topic. I can't see you. Are you anywhere?
I think she got dropped off the meeting. I don't see her in the participants list.
She's not around. Okay. Can I have Radhika to speak? Radhika, are you there? Anyone else? Wayne?
Yes, I'm here.
Who's there?
Do you want me to speak?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, the table topic master and a fellow Toastmasters. The topic given to me is about Jharkhand, Ranchi, where people speak Hindi. Well, I did most of my studies in Ranchi. That's a capital place of Jharkhand. And since I was born in Jamshedpur, so my education was done in Ranchi. I should say that it's a beautiful place, and you have a lot of waterfalls nearby. There is no need of traveling for hours and hours. If you really want to see some beautiful waterfalls, you can just take the car and just drive for about 45 minutes and you see the most beautiful places of Ranchi. Those days, it was a very peaceful town where we girls could easily walk on the roads, go and watch movies. The place was full of theaters, and we had real good educational institutes, Christian institutes. I did my pre-degree, I did my degree over there. I also did my personal management in XISS, that is David Institute of Social Service. So all my education was done over there. And the place became famous more after Dhoni became a famous cricket player. We all remember Dhoni, but even our Priyanka Chopra, her place also, her parents also belong to Jharkhand, that is belong to Jamshedpur. It's a very nice place, It's a best place. That time Jharkhand was a part of Bihar, and it's a best place and a safe place for people to travel, visit places and all that, but not like the other places in Bihar. Even if you go to Delhi also, you get scared, but Jharkhand is not like that. I still love the place, and if I get a chance, I will definitely go over there. And it is also a place which is famous for a lot of minerals. Like I have also visited coal mine during my education, and it was really worth seeing. I really enjoyed those days. And if you get a chance, please go and visit Jharkhand. You would just love the place. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane Rose, for that enlightenment on the place. Do we have time for one more speaker?
Yes. Yes.
How many are done? 3 so far? How many are done?
Only three. One more we can have.
Yeah, one more. Yeah, last one.
Radhika, would you like to take it up? Where is she? Anyone else?
Okay, I'll take it.
Okay, good.
The topic is Uttarakhand, where you have Dehradun. Well, the reason I have taken up this topic is because Dehradun, I've been to Dehradun when I was really young. They say when as a child, I used to aspire for a very utopian world. Travel did open my eyes. So I had this opportunity since my father was working in Uttar Pradesh at that time. So Uttarakhand was part of it. And every summer traveling from Bangalore to Uttarakhand, the change in weather, because Bangalore at that time was pensioners' paradise, and the weather was very close to an ideal, perfect, utopian kind of weather. So just coming out of an AC coach into that hot weather itself showed that those in south were much more sheltered, and up north are tougher because of the weather and the other invasions that have happened. Now, it was a great escape to go to Dehradun, where the cool climates and the waterfall. I remember a picnic arranged by my father and his friend and family, the gushing waters, and definitely dressing up in the local attire. My brother more like one of those dacoits, and me wearing all those traditional attire decked with silver jewelry is a keepsake, and reminds me of what a wonderful and lovely time we had, which is part of beautiful memories. So I would say I wish that we could maintain these places and they don't become too touristy, and those people of all these places can maintain. I mean, it's again a utopian idea. So I still am hopeful. Thank you.
Thank you, Radhika. That was very nice. Lyra, can I give you one more topic? Can we have one?
No, it's okay. It's already 7:10 now.
Okay.
7:10.
So if I can give one more, I'll be most happy. You decide. You decide.
No, Lyra has already said that we would wind up the table topic session and
Yes. Yes, Frana, some other time. I'll give you a
1 minute.
next.
I want to introduce my sister who has helped me with these table topics. I'm
Yes.
not good. This is my sister, Mrs. Ruth Singh, a counselor and an educator. And
Hi,
everyone.
Hello, good evening. Yeah, glad to see you. Thank you.
Without I wouldn't have managed.
Yes, yeah, I understood. Frana, I can hand over to the, thank you, Frana, you can hand over to the Toastmaster.
No, it's okay, yeah. Thank you, Frana Pinto, for conducting this innovative sport. It was very, it was just like having a general knowledge quiz. And I think, after looking at all these slides of yours, I'm motivated to go on an all India tour once the pandemic ends. I think photons can join me. Now, shall we have the timers report? And timer, could you please tell us whether everybody has qualified?
Yes. DTM Bharti Shevgur took exactly two minutes. DTM Arjun Sundar Raj, 2 minutes, 28 seconds. DTM Jane Jose, 1 minute, 58 seconds. And Toastmaster Radhika Adappa, 2 minutes, 16 seconds. Hence, all are qualified.
Yeah, thank you, Hilda. Now you can vote for the best table topic speaker. The voting link is posted in the chat box and also in the WhatsApp group. Now we'll start the evaluation segment. Now I call upon the general evaluator, Triple DTM Malini Hebar. When I asked her impressions about embracing imperfections, this is what she said: accept imperfections even as you strive for perfection. What a wonderful and powerful statement. So accept imperfections even as you strive for perfection. Over to you, General Evaluator Malini Hebar.
Thank you. Toastmaster of the day, Geeta Pereira. Toastmaster, just look at how perfect the setting is. Now, if you look at the date today, and if you take it in chunks, 21/4/21, it's a palindromic date. If you look at the meeting number 111, it is as though the whole universe conspires to tell Lyra that you are number one, not once, but not twice, thrice. You are number one, 111. But still, the Toastmaster of the day, Toastmaster Geeta Pereira, wants us to embrace imperfection. And I'm flummoxed because Toastmaster Geeta Pereira herself is the very epitome of perfection when it comes to being a perfect daughter, a perfect wife, a perfect baker, a perfect agriculturist, but more than anything else, Geeta, a perfect human being. But still, you want us to embrace imperfection. It's as though, you say in the movie, License to Kill. Now, as the general evaluator, I have the license to point out all the imperfections of the meeting, if at all. Now, before I do that, may I request our bodybuilder, Toastmaster Bo Conroy. Now, Bo, even as you try to be a perfect bodybuilder, tell yourself it's okay once in a while to have a few extra inches around the waist, all right? Over to our first evaluator to evaluate Toastmaster Claudette Norona. Over to Bo.
Good evening, everyone. Before I start, I just like to check if I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Yes, okay. Once again, good evening, all Toastmasters, and a very, very special good evening to you, Ms. Toastmaster Claudette Norona. I absolutely loved how you started your speech with the word of the day. You came in swinging right off the bat. The moment you started your speech, you meant business. I'm sure everyone here will agree with me when I say it's an absolute delight to hear you speak every time. Your speech was very, very well structured. there was a beautiful flow through it throughout the entire speech. Because of this, the entire audience was able to connect with you on a very emotional level. This is also true because you poured in so much emotion to everything you said. It was a very well executed speech. However, there are a few things you could have made to take your speech to the next level. Number one would be that you you did not look at the camera a lot throughout your speech. This was because you were you were reading your speech that was placed right next to you. So instead, next time, what I'd suggest is maybe you either write down your speech on a paper or print it out and maybe clip it next to your camera on the laptop. This way, you're still looking at the camera, you're still looking at the speech. And since only half of your screen is covered, you still have a view of the timer. So all in all, you would have a very well executed speech that way. You will also be able to have a more intimate relation with the audience because you're looking right at them and not away from them. Number two would be that because you were so close to the camera, we could not see all the hand gestures that went along with everything you were saying. Maybe next time you could either keep the camera a little far away or you can maybe stand a little further away. So just to tie up your entire speech and beautifully execute it in a flawless manner. And lastly, this is something I loved about your speech and it spoke to me on personally. That is how you enunciated each and every one of your words. This gave so much force to whatever you had to say. And people were at the edge of their seat listening to like, what's she going to say next? They were so eager to listen to what you had to say. Ma'am, it was an absolute pleasure evaluating you today. And I hope to listen to much, much more of your speeches. With that, over to you, Toastmaster of the Day.
Bo, I would have said perfect evaluation if you hadn't said over to Toastmaster of the Day. You should have said over to the general evaluator of the day. All right. Now in Mahabharata, Krishna gets described as Apat Bandhava Anatha Rakshaka. But this evening, I will not use that description of Lord Krishna, but I will say Arjuna, who is with us, is Apat Bandhava Anatha Rakshaka, because I believe Lavanya, who was supposed to evaluate our debutante performer Shweta, has some problem of power cut at her place. So she's not able to join us. She was here when Lavanya spoke, but she's not able to join us right now. But distinguished Toastmaster Arjun is all set to evaluate Shweta. So may I request you, Arjun Sundarraj, to evaluate Shweta.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator, ladies and gentlemen, and Speaker Shweta Kamath in particular, the debutante. I was wondering whether this word is really true. Let me tell you why exactly I was wondering about this word. Now, any speaker, as a matter of fact, when he or she is presenting an icebreaker, what we see is usually a hesitant speaker, shivering, and not really confident types. But over here, Shweta, on the contrary, what I saw was a very confident speaker in you, a speaker that has a clarity of thought in what she is really going to talk about. And more importantly, a speaker that is very, very well prepared. Now, when you talk about preparedness, when I look at preparedness in a speaker, in an online setting, I look at whether the speaker has the entire setup ready, whether the speaker is actually standing and presenting a speech, and more than anything else, whether the speaker is confident and clear about what she's speaking. You had all these three things in place. The second aspect, what I really loved about your presentation or speech is the structure in which it was organized. I think the understanding level in an audience comes very clearly rather the audience is able to connect with the speaker very clearly when the speech is structured in a specific manner. And I saw that clearly structured. You spoke about yourself, you spoke about what you were going through in your life. And more than anything else, as a listener, I connected with you because I got to know you in a better fashion. The third aspect is what I'm talking about in terms of the presentation. That is the little imperfections in the speech, what we could use to make the speech in a much better fashion. Number one is setup, agreed. Now, one thing which I would want you to look at probably for your next presentations is the fact that there were at times in your speech where your voice was a bit patchy. It made me a bit difficult for me to listen. There was a specific point where I turned my video off to come closer to the camera. I didn't want to scare the audience. So I wanted to come closer to the audio, to the camera, and then listen to your speeches. So that was one point which I want you to look into. Maybe it's a fault with the phone, or maybe it's a fault with the setup. Just check on that prior to the meeting start time itself. The second aspect is in terms of the camera positioning. Why I'm really talking about this, because this is pretty much an online setting which we are all living in. And it's very difficult to move out of that particular thing, at least for a while, be it professionally or in Toastmasters. So the setup part of it, I would recommend that the entire setup is right in front of your eye level. If you look at my camera right now, it's pretty much at an eye level. Okay, so of suggestion, because I really don't want to give you a very huge point of suggestions in terms of the presentation part of it, because I believe for an icebreaker, the structure needs to be in place, the person needs to have practiced, and more importantly, confident. So as a presentation mastery path chooser, you have fulfilled all these responsibilities of whatever is required. Just focus on these couple of things which are required for the online presentation part of it. I think you will master your presentation. Back to you, General Evaluator, Distinguished Toastmaster Malini.
Thank you, Distinguished Toastmaster Arjun. Port Towners, now do you know why Arjun is one of the most sought after mentors in the whole region of Bangalore? Thank you very much for rising up to the occasion and giving us your evaluation of Toastmaster Shweta. Now, when we move over to the third speaker, Distinguished Toastmaster Vidya Shenoy, we have a Distinguished Toastmaster to evaluate her, and that is none other than the President herself, that is Distinguished Toastmaster Jane Jose. Now, she is an educator. She is actually a past area director. She is the winner of humorous and table topic contest at the division level. She is a dual member. So we must consider ourselves fortunate to have Distinguished Toastmaster Jane Jose as one of our evaluators. I request Jane to give her evaluation of Vidya.
It is the heart that rules the mind, controls our body, and rules the world. General Evaluator, Toastmasters, and my speaker, Vidya in particular. Our recipe has no soul, but Toastmaster Vidya's grandma, she brought soul into the recipe. I would like to divide my evaluation into three parts. The first, the sensible part, then the sensitive part, and finally the sensitivity part. First, the sensible part. The sensible part was that Toastmaster Vidya, she gave a brief description of how her grandmother enjoyed making the pickle and distributed it to her friends, family members, without taking anything in return. The speech was very well organized. It had an introduction, a content, and a strong conclusion. She used very simple words, but very apt words. And she cleared and she created a vivid image as she took us all the way she took me especially from Kerala to Hubli, where I was there in the grandmother's room, enjoying the way the grandmother was making the pickle. And I'm sure all of you all had the same experience. Gestures were appropriate and she had real good eye contact. The style of delivery was soothing and she got the audience glued to the screen completely. because all of us wanted to enjoy the taste of that pickle which our grandmother made. It was definitely an utopian performance. The sensitive part of it is that if Toastmaster Vidya, if you could have added some dialogues in between, dialogue between your grandmother and the grandfather, or between you and the grandmother, or between the grandmother and the women, those who helped her, I think that would have added onto your speech. Means everybody would have understood more, like some incidents if you have narrated in the form of a dialogue. Then since your path is engaging humor, you should have added some humor, because throughout this path, it's expected that you should add humor to it. Some humor relating the making of the pickle. So only these two things I have in my mind. So finally, as a conclusion, as a sensitivity part, an excellent speech, delivered well, confidently, got the audience glued, used good language. But to make it better, add dialogues and add humor. You will definitely become a utopian speaker one day. Thank you so much. Over to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Jane. You used the power of 3 and thereby you reminded us of one more element of perfection of this meeting, that 3 clubs have come together, and it is actually a statement of empowerment. Thank you very much. Now we have our last evaluator, distinguished Toastmaster Hima Urmila Shetty. And if at all you start searching for imperfection in this mine of gold, because Hima means gold, you will be at an utter loss. So don't ever try that. Now may I request Urmila to evaluate Toastmaster Melora. Over to you, Urmila. Urmila, have you unmuted yourself?
Ma'am, she's not there.
Urmila,
no, but no. She I think she's unmuted. Yes.
Urmila is there.
It's there, but we can't see her. She unmuted herself. She must be around.
Why can I not be seen?
Yes,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
can't be. Yeah, you are not visible.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering why.
I think.
Ma'am, the camera is actually on the other side. Are you logged in through phone?
Excuse me?
Are you logged in through phone?
No, I'm on my iPad. Okay, just a minute.
Flip the camera.
Okay,
Yes. We can see you.
Solved. Malini, I'd be grateful if I don't see the timer to be reminded of the time.
I'll highlight. Yes, I'll highlight it. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Good evening again, all Toastmasters from our other clubs as well. I'm very happy to have been able to evaluate Melora. From the beginning of her speech, Melora, are you there? From the beginning of your speech, you started with very incisive questions. Who was the first person you spoke to? It did not really make sense. And yet, you came to the point where you made us aware of the tragedy of this situation called dementia. Now, memory, in all our memories of the past, we like to dwell on our happy memories and think of them as utopian. But a loss of memory is very much dystopian because you cannot remember. It is the opposite of utopia. You have everything that you can't remember. And the title, Forget Me Not, was right because it kept us in suspense. Now, after you introduced your topic, you supported it with examples, your visit to the dementia center. You told us about types of Alzheimer's. Then you gave us, again, horrifying statistics of dementia world over. And it was this, your structure was sensitive immersion in your research topic. You're supposed to poke and pry with a purpose, but you poked and pried sensitively. The next thing you went into was the symptoms of this, so that we were educated on that. And you gave us one very clear idea that we do not realize that young people are affected, not only older people. So at this point, you gave us many suggestions to do something in the future, so that from a mood of tragedy, you brought us to acceptance and then of imperfections, and then to some hope. So if I had any recommendation, it would be in the absence of my telling you about your delivery. I think your delivery was synchronized very good, but I was so immersed in this topic and it went so fast that I couldn't actually concentrate on how you were delivering it. But I don't think it made a difference. And so I would say, with all conviction, you said, forget me not. I don't think, Melora, we are going to forget either you or the subject and topic you chose, which was in so much in keeping with the theme of the day. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, DTM Urmila. Shall I say super say upar to you and for your evaluation? May I now request the timer to give us the timing of the 4 evaluators?
All right. Toastmaster Bo Conroy Paul took 3 minutes, 6 seconds. DTM Arjun, 3 minutes, 24 seconds. DTM Jane Jose, 2 minutes, 58 seconds. And DTM Urmila Shetty, 3 minutes, 18 seconds. All are qualified.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Malin.
Yes. Meanwhile, I would want to know from Brian whether he has been able to replace Lavanya's name with the Arjun's name. Have you been able to do that? Because instead of Lavanya,
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Thank you. And is the link on the chat box?
Yeah, it's coming now.
Okay. So distinguished Toastmaster Brian will be putting the link on the chat box. And meanwhile, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that many times imperfections lead to some kind of discover your perfection. And one of the stories that I would like to share with you is of Crumb, the name of a cook, George Crumb. I believe when he supplied cooked potato, slightly fried, to one of his clients, that client kept sending back the plate, saying that it wasn't fried enough. Now, this chef, Crumb, was so annoyed with this customer that he insanely cut the potatoes into very thin slices and fried them. In fact, he over-fried them, thinking that his customer would be very angry. But they say that particular item later on became the rage of the whole world as potato wafers. So sometimes out of imperfection gets born perfection. Now with this, may I request, I hope all of you have voted for the best evaluator. May I now request our counter, distinguished Toastmaster, Shyam Sundar Kamath, to give us the R count. Shyam Sundar Kamath, are you around?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I just unmuted myself. I was muted, sorry. among the speakers, I was trying my level best to find some R's. Unfortunately, there were none. Shweta Kamath, of course, being a beginner, had one repetition. And DTM Vidya, of course, one repetition and one interchange of word. Among the evaluators, Bo, no R's, repetition twice. Arjun, one light R. DTM Jane Joes, a small repetition. Urmila, of course, as usual, lot of R's. I wouldn't like to say how many they were. Shall I? Shall I, Urmila? 9 R's.
Yes, please.
That is a small number.
I topped the tape.
No. Don't, you're not top. You're not top. I'll tell you, there is some more, counting among the innovative spot, table topics, if I say. Speaker number 1, Bharati, Arjun, Jain, nothing, no R's. And Radhika came in competition with Urmila here. Of course, she has beaten Urmila. Stutters 2 only, and repetition once. So Urmila, she is Radhika.
We are glad of our imperfections.
And I was trying to find if there are any R's in TMOD, none. Malini, of course, you don't find anytime. I'm desperately trying anyway. Anyway, back to Malini.
Thank you, Shyam.
Generally valued.
We are in the mood to celebrate imperfection. So I think we have to put our hands together for Urmila, but more than that, for Radhika, because you kept us in suspense. You told us that Urmila had 9. You only told us Radhika beat her, but you didn't tell us how many she had. Great suspense. Thank you, because suspense always adds spice to life. Thank you very much for that. Brian, when you gave us the word of the day as utopia, on a very serious note, I must say that probably this is the time, as Urmila said, when it is dystopia all around us because of the pandemic. Probably we'll have to think of how life can once again be almost ideal, almost perfect, when we try to bring in that element of being with one another, caring for one another, etc., etc. But then if you go to the root of the word, it comes from the Greek word, and it is actually O, which means no, not, and topos, which means place. And Thomas More, when he wrote the book and he titled this Utopia, he meant nowhere. Let's hope that it's just a myth, and let's hope that we can create for ourselves happy worlds. With this, I now request our grammarian, distinguished Toastmaster, Brian, to give us his report.
Well, I'm back again, Toastmasters, and for me as a grammarian today, it was utopia. The reason being, everybody who spoke used the word more than once. There was not a single one person who did not use it. And I, as a grammarian, obviously used it because I had to say the word. The icing on the cake, of course, was DTM Malini Hebbar's explanation of the word utopia, its origin, and of course, the author of the book, Utopia, who actually coined the word, if I'm not mistaken. So with that introduction to the word, and the fact that every one of you used it, in some sense or the other, I would like to just highlight more than utopia, the good usage of English that I heard today. Now, as I said, I had my imperfections today because I was multitasking. On one side, I was taking screenshots. On the other side, I was updating the ballot sheet. And on the other side, I was listening to speeches and table topics and trying to note down the best usages. So in case I've missed a few very good usages, you can always butt in. I think that's not the right word to use, but it's if you use it in the right sense, I think it's fine. But But anyway, do intervene in case you have heard some good usages. I just want to start with the Lolly or TM Claudette. She used, I don't know whether you call them triads or whatever, but she used the P's, all the P's she used: pressurize, pleases, promises, and pestering. And all of us have used them at some point or the other in our leadership roles as a child or whatever. So one of them or all of them together. And I think she was an expert. So we'll have to learn a lot from her. As far as Shweta Kamath was concerned, I like the word new beginnings. That was the title. And jobless and something I have noted down, but I couldn't read it. So new beginnings. And for her, new beginnings, it was really good. Vidya Shanai, of course, is the master of English and delivery of English, her vocabulary and the way she delivers it. And obviously, the pickle utopia is somewhere I'd like to go, but I don't think, because I love pickles, and I don't think I'll be able to enjoy that utopia unless she gives it to me. But I like the word, the way she used it. And she also used a triad called agency, autonomy, and I missed the third one. If somebody can tell me what it is, I'd love to hear it.
Authority.
Huh?
Authority.
Authority, yeah. Agency, authority, and autonomy. Yeah, very, very nice. Especially the word agency. The usage of the word in that particular context was excellent. Melora, of course, had some very good usage, like she used the word umbrella term. Now, there is another word for umbrella called the parasol. The parasol is actually a smaller umbrella. So the fact that she used the word umbrella is the one that our grandfathers used to use, with the wooden handle, the big one. That's the one she used. Now, when it comes to the what you call the table topics or the innovative spot, there was a lot of good usage, but since it's impromptu, there were a lot of imperfections too. I'd rather not dwell on the imperfections because we are embracing them. When we embrace them, we don't dwell on them. So let me not go into that. But I do like, I think Radhika Adappa used decked with jewelry. And that's usually seen on a bride. And I'm not very fond of jewelry, but I like to see women decked with jewelry. Then it came to the evaluators, and lots of good usage, and especially DTM Urmila Shetty, as always. I like the word sensitive immersion. Sensitive immersion, that's a wonderful usage of the word. It conveys a lot of meaning. Like once you're immersed, basically you're not sensitive at all. Like when you're drowning, for instance, the first thing you try to do is push up. Anybody in the way, you will kill him and try to survive. But sensitive immersion is something that is extraordinary in its usage. So thank you for that, DTM Urmila. Of course, all the speakers, including Arjun Sundaraj, had something nice to say and use the word, using the language. So I don't want to go into too much of detail, but all of you have heard all the speeches, and I'm sure you have picked up at least one or two idioms or English words. And maybe from all of you, you might emerge as, we might see a new Shashi Tharoor. Thank you very much. Over to the general evaluator.
Thank you, DTM Brian. At times you are our Shashi Tharoor. And when you gave us the word utopia, I was reminded of Sir Alexander Fleming's penicillin, which was an accidental serendipitous discovery, because after trying to find a wonder drug, just as we are trying to find a wonder drug for COVID now, he was trying to find a wonder drug for various diseases, thought he failed and threw it into the trash bin, but later on discovered that in one particular vessel, there was the growth of some mold, and the bacteria around that mold was getting dissolved, and thereby he realized that he had found the most powerful antibiotic. So let's hope that we will be out of this COVID situation soon when we find a wonder drug in addition to the vaccination that we already have. Now moving over to my general evaluation, Now, every time, one of the imperfect problems of our club, it's redundant to say imperfect problems, has been the problem of looking at the timer. So very often we have told all of you, either you must learn how to pin the timer, or you must opt for the gallery view and see that you can look at the timer. Either of the two you must learn to do. Now, Lolly, let me tell you that, yes, the timer was not spotlighted when you spoke. You were right in saying that the timer was not spotlighted, because after that, I asked Wayne to spotlight the timer. Now, the timer was not spotlighted for you because you looked at the timer and you said you could see the timer. So we did not know that you had a problem spotting the timer. So again, I repeat myself, either at the beginning of the meeting, those of you who want the timer to be spotlighted, please say that you want the timer to be spotlighted so that the Zoom master can do it. Otherwise, some of you may not like it because it comes in the middle of your speech and you may get distracted. So please make sure either to learn to pin the timer or to opt for the gallery view or to ask the organizers, the Zoom masters, for the timer to be spotlighted. I must thank Hilda for doing her duty wonderfully. Wayne for spotlighting. I was assisting Wayne because sometimes internet issues are there. So both of us were doing it together. But then I must also say that Lolly was good in asking for the time before she started. That was a good move on your part. You asked for the timer, and all of you should do that so that when the timer replies, the timer comes to the top bar in case you do not want to opt for the gallery view. Now, Melora overshot time and the timer was spotlighted at that particular point of time. So Melora, you should be careful because you cannot take more than 30 seconds after the red flag goes up. So, and the timer was spotlighted for you, so you had no reason to overshoot your time. Now, I must also say that on the agenda, we must put the speech plan and the time of that particular speech plan, because supposing the timer has any problem because the evaluator might not have mentioned the time for that particular speech, the timer can refer to the agenda and see for herself what is the time for that particular speech. Otherwise, it's very difficult. The timer goes helpless there. But again, I repeat myself, Hilda managed it beautifully. TT Master, Table Topic Master Frana, you had an innovative idea. As our Toastmaster of the Day, Geeta, said, it also improved our general awareness. One suggestion there, that is, after you give the topic, after we have taken a good look at the picture, probably the picture could be removed so that we can look at the table topic speakers instead of looking at the picture throughout and the table topic speaker being at the side. And also on the slide, it is better to minimize the number of words and just give a couple of cue words from where the speakers can take off. But having said this, let me say that it was a wonderful idea. And for the first time, I have ever come across a table topic with this type, with this idea. Now, I am not going to mention.
Thank you for the suggestions as well.
Yes. Thank you, Frana. Yes. So I'm not going to take out everybody's name because, as I always say, general evaluation is not a vote of thanks, but I've shared with you what I think should be improved upon if we have to have a perfect meeting. As I have already said, even as we embrace imperfection, let us strive for perfection. Let me once again thank the representatives from our sister clubs for joining us, and let me thank our President Lyra for ensuring that all of us joined in time. A lot of work that's gone in, and Toastmaster of the Day, Geeta Pereira, for the kind of work that you have put in. Our counter, timer, Zoom master, photographer, evaluators, speakers, the one who gave prayer in a very, very solemn manner, Sergeant at Arms who opened the meeting. All of you have striven hard to see that we have almost a perfect meeting. Thank you for the efforts put in. Over to the Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you, DTM Malini, for that wonderful report. At every stage of our session today, we have embraced imperfection and we have accepted our brokenness. I have a last story for you. The very idea of this came from a Zen philosophy called as Wabi Sabi. It was said that a host in Japan, he had a visitor who was visiting him, and the host was he wanted to keep his house very clean. So he told his son, his wife, and to present their tea ceremony in a very nice way. So the visitor was not very impressed with what was happening inside, but his eyes were on, he was watching a cherry tree which was shedding leaves. So in life, there are a lot of things which are flawed, which are not so beautiful, but it might catch our attention. So it is not necessary for us to always strive for perfection. So embrace your imperfection, fancy your flaws, flaunt your blemishes, adore your birthmarks, laugh off your glitches, and discuss your setbacks. Don't call your mistakes regrets, call them your lessons. I think we have come to the last part of the segment. Over to the president.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Toastmaster today, Geeta Pereira. Of course, from today, or from this moment, I'm going to embrace all my imperfection. I'm going to be more perfect. I'll be, you know what to say? I will take them in a positive manner, given age, but very soon, let's hope and pray that we'll be back into a utopian age or world. The time, now it's the time for me to give out the results, the most awaited moment. As a best speaker, we have Toastmaster or DTM, Vidya Shenoy. Congratulations, Vidya. Yes, you're muted. The best evaluator is Toastmaster Bo Conroy Paul. I don't think he's around. He had to leave. The best table topic speaker is from BSTC, the Bangalore Storytellers. DTM, Arjun Sundaraj. Congratulations, Arjun. And the best role taker, is it come, is DTM, Malini Hebar. Congratulations, everyone have done the best. It was an Ethiopian meeting, right from the beginning when the Sergeant at Arms opened the meeting till the time the Toastmaster of the day ended the meeting. So, Arjun, how did you like the meeting? What is your take on the meeting? over to our guest. So thank you. I'm hereby going to adjourn the meeting. Yeah, over to you, Arjun.
Thank you. I think the meeting was fantastic.
Leela, the best role taker.
I have announced. DTM
Okay.
Malini Hebar. I announced. Okay. I think you were dreaming. Thank you.
I'm dealing with too many things. I don't dream.
Yeah. Okay.
Brian,
okay.
Thank you.
You're forgiven.
Announced twice because of you. Thank you. Doubly honored.
Yes, yes. Yes, Arjun.
Thank you. I think the meeting was beautiful. I mean, especially Vidya's speech was, it reminded me of a lot of memories. I think that was one of the closest things to me. You know, my aunt and my grandma as well. I think that was so, you know, it was so beautiful on the ears. That's what I really loved about the speech. I think that's beautifully done. Where is our table topics master? I particularly wanted to thank her for the effort that she has taken.
Yeah,
I think
she
Mana has left the meeting, right? Oh yeah. Oh, yes. You're here, ma'am. I think, ma'am, hats off to you, and definitely thanks to your sister. Was it?
Yes, my sister. Younger sister.
Excellent. I think thanks to her and both of you. Beautiful topics, number one. And number two, the effort that actually you took to prepare a beautiful presentation with good amount of content there. I think that took away the entire scenario from the meeting. That was a USP for me in this meeting. I think I would say that. So thank you so much. I love being here. I was a little, in a dilemma whether to attend the meeting or not because I had some other thing to take care of at home. Fortunately, I was able to postpone that. And then Lara was like, if you're able to, please do attend. Good that I did come. Everything worked out well because unfortunately, Lavanya had to step out because of logistical reasons. It's great. And the bonus, I got to evaluate a speech as well. And of course, yeah, table topics. That's obviously there.
Thank you, Arjun. I appreciate your appreciation. Thank you so much.
I would say a word about Arjun. He really helped me when I was stuck up in this Hall of Fame points. And I think even at 11:30 in the night, I used to disturb him because daytime is impossible to get Arjun. So thanks, Arjun, once again for all the help.
Thank you. And congratulations for almost getting into gold there. I think it's pretty smooth now.
We are at 37. We are at gold.
38, I noticed. I just saw the I think it's 38. I'm not sure.
Okay, because there's many more to be reflected. They will be reflected. It's okay. Yeah, but I consider ourselves in shamelessly of saying that.
So
thank you. Thanks, everyone. I will. Yes, ma'am. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No. Lyra is beaming, so I don't have the heart to stop recording. But I want to know from you, Lyra, should I stop recording?
Oh, so sorry. Yes, Malini. We should have done it. That's when I said adjourn. Yeah, I said adjourn the meeting. I just forgot.